Hello, my name is Nathan Taylor, otherwise known as Sockmatician, and this is a tutorial to accompany the Sockmatician's double knitted brioche ebook. This particular tutorial shows you how to work yarn over increases in double knitting, not in double knitted brioche. There are a few patterns in the book which use elements of double knitting, and one element is the yarn over increase, and so this is showing you how to do it so you know what to do when you get there. As you can see, I've got a swatch here with some double knitted brioche at the bottom and a section of double knitting here, and this is the point where I want to create my yarn over. In ordinary knitting, of course, a yarn over is simply an extra yarn loop going over the top of the needle, which you can then work into and pretend it's a stitch on the next row, and it becomes a stitch. With double knitting, of course, you've got two yarns to worry about, so we need to make two loops of yarn. Now you might think you can just wrap them both over the top of the needle like that and carry on, but if you think about it, that's not a pair of double knitted yarn overs, that's one yarn over with the two yarns held double. Believe me, it does make a difference when you try to work into that pair separately on the next row or round. You'll find they get all twisted and tangled up around each other, so it has to be done in a very specific way. You can work yarn overs in double knitting with the colours around either way. I could either make a brown blue pair or a blue brown pair, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to start off by showing you a brown blue pair because brown is the background colour on the side that's facing me at the moment. In the book it says bring the yarn specified by the colour of the square on the chart to the front of the work, and let's assume that for the purposes of this pair of yarn overs it means that that is the brown yarn. So bring the yarn specified by the colour of the square on the chart to the front of the work, coming between the two needles. Then take it to the back of the work, going over the top of the right needle. Now that's an ordinary yarn over as you would expect it to be performed. But then you bring it to the front of the work once more, again coming between the two needles. So that's a yarn over and a half. The half is very, very important at this point. Step 2, you bring the other yarn, that's the one that you didn't use in step 1, bring the other yarn to the front of the work, coming between the two needles. Then take it to the back of the work, going over the top of the right needle. So we've now performed a yarn over with the second yarn as well. Step 3 is take the first yarn to the back of the work, going between the two needles. So we've undone that extra half yarn over that we've done. So essentially it's the same as a yarn over and a half, followed by a yarn over with the other yarn, and then an unhalf, if you like, to undo that half yarn over, leaving us with one yarn over with the first colour and a second yarn over with the second colour. I'm going to just work the next pair of stitches as double knitting so that I don't have to worry about them slipping off. And as you can see here, I've got this column of stitches coming up to this brown stitch, this column of stitches coming up to this brown stitch, and in the middle there's another brown stitch and another blue stitch there, and those are the yarn overs. It's going to leave a nice decorative hole as you would expect. I'm going to, that stitch is mounted the wrong way, I'm just going to move on one more pair of stitches, starting with both yarns at the back, of course, because this is double knitting, not double knitted brioche. I should have said that earlier. Starting with both yarns at the back, let me show you that again. Bring one yarn to the front, to the back, and to the front, through the needles, over the top, and through the needles. Then the other yarn comes through the needles and over the top, and the first yarn goes to the back, going between the two needles. And that gives us our two yarn over strands there. They will be automatically in the right places when you come to work into them on the next row or round, which I'll show you in a minute. But first of all, I want to show you what it looks like if you want to create your yarn over with the colours around the other way. Once again, starting with both yarns at the back, bring the other colour this time. The instructions are exactly the same, so I'm just going to read them out exactly as before, but using the opposite colour so you can see how the instructions work for both ways round. Bring the yarn specified by the colour of the square on the chart to the front of the work, coming between the two needles. In this case, it's my blue yarn. Then take it to the back of the work, going over the top of the right needle. Then bring it to the front of the work once more, coming between the two needles. Bring the other yarn to the front of the work, that's the brown this time, coming between the two needles. Then take it to the back of the work, going over the top of the right needle. And step 3 is take the first yarn, the blue one, to the back of the work, going between the two needles. Now before we go anywhere at all, this last yarn over that we've done is a little bit precarious, so I'm going to work the next pair of stitches according to the instructions in the pattern to lock that in, and you can see that that's given us a pair of yarn overs with the yarn switched over. Back here, when we were creating the yarnos, we've still gone brown, blue, brown, blue, brown, blue, brown, blue, brown, blue, brown, blue. Here we've got brown, blue, blue, brown, brown, blue, and those switched pair, that switched pair there, those are the yarnovers with the colours worked the other way. I'm now just going to quickly work along to the end of this row, then I'll turn the row and I'll join you when I get back to the same place to show you how it looks when you reach those yarnovers on the other side. As you can see, I'm now on the other side and I've worked my way back to the point where I've one pair of stitches before that pair of yarnovers. Now, because I'm coming back in the opposite direction, obviously the first one I meet are the ones with the colours switched around the other way. So here's what it looks like to work into them. I work the knit stitch with my blue, this is the pair before, bring the yarns to the front and work the purl stitch with my brown, take the yarns to the back. And here you can see I've got a perfect yarn over all ready to work into with my brown yarn. So I knit into that one and purl into the next stitch, the next yarn over, which is blue, with my blue yarn, and take the yarns to the back of the work, moving on to the next pair as normal. And here I've come to one of the pairs of yarn overs without the colours switched over, so I can knit into that one with the blue, purl into that one with the brown, and I've got one of those coming up in another couple of pairs. So there's one more pair, another blue brown pair there, and here are those yarn overs. Can you see they're already exactly as you want them? This blue yarn over is sitting in front of this brown yarn over, which is exactly what we want, because we want the first stitch to be on the front side of the fabric and the second stitch to be on the back side of the fabric. And there we go. So I'm just going to finish that little section of double knitting there, and then we can have a look at what that looks like. Pull onto the cable, and as you can see, we've got nice decorative holes here in our double knitting. We've got this hole here has started a brown branch of stitches, because that's the one with the colours switched over. And you see on the back there it started a column of blue stitches there. This one here is just an ordinary yarn over with no colour switches, and you can see the decorative hole that goes all the way through the fabric. It's really, really pretty there, just like any other lace yarn overs would be. And that's all you need to know about working yarn over increases in double knitting. Zip!